population stands at 53 million people, according to the census, most of which are on welfare, from failed nations or from prisons, mental institutions, gangs, or drug cartels. It's important to note here, when Trump is talking about the foreign population, he's not talking about like just illegal immigrants. When Trump says foreign population, according to the census, 53 million people at least known, he's actually talking about legal and illegal, which is one of the reasons this is so significant. What Trump is discussing here is not just a policy against illegal immigration. He's talking about a policy against some forms of even legal immigration. And he's making a case saying that, people migrate here, they visit here, and they become a drain on the country. That, basically through the goodness of Americans, we're letting them all in, but they're making the quality of life here worse for the people of this nation. Trump says this: they and their children are supported through massive payments from patriotic American citizens who, because of their beautiful hearts, do not want to openly complain or cause trouble in any way, shape, or form. Which is true, by the way, with a lot of Americans. We generally have an open door to, legal migration. Despite the criticisms against Americans, we have, I think, the most open legal migration policy in the entire world, and have for a very long time. And of course, a lot of migrants, while oftentimes the first generation might have a few hardworking people, typically second generation, according to even studies actually, basically has the same type of welfare pattern as the country they come from. And this has been a problem with the United States for a long time. But Trump says this. He says, a migrant earning $30,000 with a green card will get roughly $50,000 in yearly benefits for their family. Trump says the real migrant population is much higher, suggesting that 53 million is a low estimate. This refugee burden, and this is important. Trump's talking not about illegal immigration. He's talking about refugees in this case. He says this refugee burden is the leading cause of social dysfunction in America, something that did not exist after World War II, failed schools, high crime, urban decay, overcrowded hospitals, housing shortages, and large deficits, etc. He says, as an example, hundreds of thousands of refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state of Minnesota. By the way, they've been exposed to have been basically ripping off through fraud the welfare system to a tune of about $2 billion, known. He adds, though, even as we have progressed technologically, immigration policy has eroded those gains and living conditions for many. He's suggesting that America is basically a giant welfare state, and we've been supporting the third world by allowing them to rob us, take advantage of us, bring their crime and problems here, and effectively lower the quality of life for all Americans. Now, is that the case? I can say, as somebody who grew up in the 80s and 90s, I barely recognize my country. I feel like a foreigner in my own country, and I can see it, frankly. It is the unfortunate condition, actually, that, again, I know plenty of migrants, and I know plenty who are on welfare. And I know a lot of Americans who struggle to get by because of competition for houses, causing huge rises in, again, difficulty finding affordable housing. The problem, of course, of jobs being scooped up, whether it's the low-income jobs, like the McDonald's and restaurant jobs being scooped up by illegals, whether it's the mid-tier jobs, the blue-collar jobs, construction, truck driving being scooped up by H-1B visas or illegals, or the white-collar jobs being scooped up by, again, mostly legal migrants. But again, the American people are being left with very little, and that is unfortunately the case. It's very hard to get by in this country now. But Trump adds, quote, I will permanently pause migration. I will permanently pause migration from all third world countries to allow the U.S. system to fully recover, terminate all of the millions of Biden illegal admissions, including those signed by Sleepy Joe Biden's auto pen, and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States or is incapable of loving our country end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens of our country, denaturalize migrants who undermine domestic tranquility, and deport any foreign national who is a public charge, security risk, or non-compatible with Western civilization. The significance of this statement is incredible, by the way. Trump is talking not even just about deporting illegal immigrants here. What Trump is saying is he is going to be looking at every single migrant, every single visa holder, every single person who has even been naturalized and gotten American citizen who is not U.S. born. He's going to be looking at all of them, and he's going to be saying, have you been getting welfare? If you have, you might get deported. Are you a net asset to this country? Are you compatible with Western civilization? Have you been living here for 20 years and you never learned English? You might get deported. Are you somebody who loves this country? If you've been stating online, if you've been writing on the internet that America is a failed state, you hate it, you love your own country, you're waving your own country's flag, you might get deported. If Trump is, for example, saying that he's going to end all migration from third world countries, remember what qualifies as a developing country, right? That's most of Latin America, that's most of Africa, that's a lot of Asia. That is even technically China. The United States actually still legally regards China as a developing country. They get benefits from it, actually, but they're still legally regarded as a developing country. This would limit migration basically to only first world countries, Canada, Western Europe, Japan, technically, South Korea, Australia, and not a whole lot of others. There are not a lot of countries in the world that are regarded as first world countries. Most of the Middle East would not fall under this, by the way. And if he says also people who are not compatible with Western civilization, how do you define Western civilization? It would even mean that people who talk about jihad, people who talk about the evil America, people who criticize, they've even talked about criticizing Israel as being a possible thing with this, especially with Muslim countries. You could see a lot of people get deported. You could see a lot of people lose their visas. I don't know about denaturalizing people. That's not really something we typically see. Typically, if you're going to denaturalize somebody, they have to be a convicted criminal. They have to actually be convicted of a crime, and usually a major one, because that's a huge step. They might even do that. Trump is talking about a huge, we'll see if it's even legal, but something we've never seen before, shift in the way that the United States views and handles migration. You might see people who've been here for a very long time get deported. And again, the big question is if, because Trump's been saying he's going to deport all the illegals and hasn't done that yet either. He doesn't have a lot of time to be doing something this major. And if he's talking about 53 million people they're going to be reviewing, that is a lot. On the side of this, though, I am aware that some of these policies have already been implemented. I know a lot of people from other countries. I've got friends from other countries. I am aware that even people who've applied for amnesty, even people who are here on visas, they all have to reapply through a much more rigid standard now. All of them are now being made to reapply. I know a lot of people who fled, persecution and so on from especially China. They're all having to reapply right now, and this could. I don't know what it's going to mean deporting some people, because personally, I do know a lot of people who, if they're deported, they risk being jailed or killed, especially by the Chinese Communist Party. So I don't know how they're going to be looking at this, but all of them are now having to reapply. Something big is going on. And basically, Trump is making it clear that they're going to be reviewing basically every single person who is not born in this country.
One step above.
Trump adds, though, quote, "These goals will be pursued with the aim of achieving a major reduction in illegal and disruptive populations." Remember, he's not just saying illegal, but also disruptive, including those admitted through an unauthorized and illegal auto pen approval process, meaning temporary protection status, and so on. Trump adds that only reverse migration can fully cure this situation. That is, the weight of this cannot be understated. This is massive. With the big if Trump actually does it, because as we've seen, it's very difficult for him to do things because there's going to be a lot of legal challenges to this, put it that way. Now, on this point, though, the federal government right now is already moving to, at the very least, cut funding to illegal immigrants. Anybody who has been getting welfare or any kind of benefit, they're risking losing it right now. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent wrote this. He said, at President Donald Trump's direction, we are working to cut off federal benefits to illegal aliens and preserve them for U.S. citizens. He says U.S. Treasury announced it will issue proposed regulations clarifying the refunded portions of certain individual income tax benefits are no longer available to illegal and other non-qualified aliens. This is not just illegal aliens, but even legal ones. He says covering the Earned Income Tax Credit, the Additional Child Tax Credit, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and the Savers Match Credit. On that point, a lot of illegal immigrants get benefits through their families and children. In some states where they don't even check migration status, you have a lot of illegal immigrants on welfare and getting other forms of benefits, free schooling, free health care, food stamps, you name it. It is a massive issue. And some people would say, well, like illegal immigrants cannot legally get that. We get it because some states don't ask migration status, and so they're able to bypass the law because of that. Which they're trying to overturn right now by allowing sharing of data between agencies. Now, you might be wondering, is all this really possible? What powers does the president have to do this? Well, we'll be talking more about this after we come back from a quick break. President Donald Trump issued an announcement ending mass migration from third world countries into the United States, saying the kindness of Americans has been exploited by people coming in from other countries. Now, there's been a bit of a debate about whether or not this is even possible, right? Well, the White House released a statement clarifying the law they're going to use that gives the president the ability to do what Trump is now saying he's going to do. And they note that under the Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 212F, it says, quote, whenever the president finds that the entry of any aliens or of any class of aliens into the United States would be detrimental to the interests of the United States, he may, by proclamation, and for such period as he shall deem necessary, suspend the entry of all aliens or any class of aliens as immigrants or non-immigrants, or impose on the entry of aliens any restriction he may deem to be appropriate. Meaning, Trump has the legal ability to block the entry of any country of origin, of any social status, of any basic, people he doesn't want. There is a legal basis to do this. And, this is a little different from like deporting people or denaturalizing people. But this is a power President Trump could do merely by just proclaiming it. He could make a proclamation and ban migration from, half the world if he wants, and he might do it. He's saying he's going to do it. But back to Trump's broader statements on ending migration from third world countries, basically as a whole. Which, literally, that's what he said. Stephen Miller, White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security. He also clarified some of the thinking behind that statement. And here's what he said, right? This is him, and he's saying this, quote, this is the great lie of mass migration. You are not just importing individuals, you are importing societies. And that's an important point, right? He's suggesting that a country and the quality of a country is not just some kind of magic, soil type thing, right? It's not like a person goes to a country that's rich in oil and minerals, like Venezuela, for example, or Uganda, for example, with all the wonderful resources they have. It's not like people just go to these countries and magically wealth spurts out of the ground. It is the culture, the character of the people, the religion of the people that establishes, the society. And the quality of that society is basically a product of the people themselves. People create their societies. A good neighborhood or a bad neighborhood is formed by the people within it. High crime, low crime is determined by the culture and the values. Success, failure, decided by the culture and the values. It's not some magic formula. It is the people, and again, the nature of those people, who determine the success or failure of a nation. And he's suggesting that if you were to import people into the United States, or any country for that matter, from a failed state, from a country that's backwards, from a third world country, they will not magically become successful. Maybe the first generation, but their culture will come with them. Their way